The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send it to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away. Hell. Jack the Ripper was known for his supposed 5 kills in Whitechapel, London. He was known to target women, much like the one shown in the image that I have blurred, because he was also known as the Ripper for disemboweling all of his victims, which made any real photos of the victims extremely graphic. According to some of his letters and even marks left in the victims, he most likely used either daggers or knives, as the one shown in the picture from Assassin's Creed, Syndicate, DLC, Jack the Ripper, a canonical source for the exact weapons used by Jack the Ripper. Another artifact still preserved from his murders were the letters that he left behind for the police department. The letter shown left over by Jack the Ripper in the Minecraft skit is part of this letter shown here, which was left by the victims for the police department to find, as Jack the Ripper was extremely arrogant and was also right about his arrogance because he never got caught. According to some witnesses, they say that Jack the Ripper wore a top hat, which is a very interesting fashion choice, not considering the time as most people wore top hats, but you'd think as a fashionable guy, he wouldn't want to get his top hat bloody. That's just my personal opinion though. The last artifact we have from the Jack the Ripper phenomenon is this image of him that was drawn from witness testimonies by the police department in London. Now, a lot of people are foolishly comparing this image to H.H. Holmes, which I have to say is ridiculous. It looks nothing like him. He is far, far more similar to the default Roblox character. The crowning of a new queen, Victoria, brought upon the Victorian era. The first artifact that we have from this event, the coronation, is the crown. Queen Victoria was crowned at the age of 19 by Edward I. This was the crown she first used when she became queen. Our next artifact is the golden chariot, which drove Queen Victoria all the way to the place she was crowned, which just so happens to be our next artifact. Queen Victoria was crowned in Westminster Abbey, London, United Kingdom. It was previously titled the Collegiate Church of St. Peter. As you may have heard me mention, Edward I was the one who crowned Queen Victoria. He also happened to make art. The art shown here is his art on the 7th plague of Egypt. This may not have anything to do with the coronation directly, but it does have to do with the person who crowned her queen. The last artifact we have from this coronation is her dress. The dress itself isn't preserved, but there are replicas of it out there, as seen by this image.
By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling. Michael, they have taken you away.
The Irish potato famine spread disease throughout the potato crops, which led to hunger among Irish people, disease among Irish people, and death among Irish people. The first artifact we have from this era is a painting of an Irish family barely surviving through this potato famine. They can be seen to have a green skin tone, showing sickliness among them, as well as torn clothes, showing that they can't afford anything better. This image shows the unfortunate picture of 3 children with their mother, who appears to be either dead or dying as a cause of this potato famine. This next image shows a couple of skeletons that were lying in a ditch. These were most likely victims of starvation or disease that happened to be dying on the side of the road. This artifact is a potato that was left over from the potato famine. You can see the kind of diseased inside that caused disease and sickness to spread around. This last artifact is a couple of the many, many statues that are left out in Ireland that were made to represent the people walking around with plenty of diseases and no food. The Irish people in the Victorian era. The death of a queen. What better way to mark the end of the Victorian era but with the death of the Victorian Queen? Queen Victoria died on January 22nd, 1901. One of the first artifacts we have is this image of a large crowd of people walking around the Queen's casket towards where the Queen will be buried. The place this crowd is bringing her is in fact the Royal Mausoleum, which just so happens to be our next artifact. This image of the Royal Mausoleum where the Queen was buried, along with, as well, our next artifact, a cast of her late husband's hand. Not only was she buried with a cast of his hand, but she was also buried with his clothes. Here we see in this image a replica of those clothes. And last but not least, the casket itself. The Queen was buried in a casket in the mausoleum with images of angels on the outside. On the outside we can see the Queen and her late husband, or at least statues of them laying down as if they were sleeping together in a bed. Thank you for watching this video, but that'll about wrap it up.
Well, may have gone too far in a few places.